Caroline Paganussi. Welcome back to Renato. Caroline was a BA here in History of Art and College Scholar program, as did yours truly. But mine was a little bit before this. After that, she did an MA in Museum Studies at the University College London and worked at the Phillips Collection in Washington, D.C. And she's now pursuing a PhD in Italian Renaissance art history at the University of Maryland College of Art. Her interests include personal and civic devotion in the late 15th and early 16th century in Bologna, the Renaissance landscape, Emilian artistic and cultural dialogues with Northern Europe, and exchanges of the Baroque in Iberia, Southern Italy, and Latin America. Since her title is here, I won't waste your time repeating it, but welcome, Caroline, and all yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pincus, and thank you so much, Cornell University Romance Studies Department. It's wonderful to be back. Huge thank you to Benedetta and Christina for putting me up so graciously. Artists working in fascist Italy between 1922 and 1945 distilled regional cultural artifacts into an authoritative and comprehensive notion of Italianità, or Italianness, a concept that the Italian Communist Party would also modify to suit the Gramscian class struggles that formed the backbone of its political ideology. Corrado Cagli's Battle of San Martino and Solferino, and Renato Guttuso's Battle of the Ammiraglio Bridge, located today on opposite walls in the Uffizi Gallery in Florence, respectively embody the fascist and communist intent to synthesize regional and stylistic features into artworks with mass appeal. The paintings depict critical battles of the Risorgimento, the 1848 to 1870 Italian movements of independence and unity. As Hargrove and McWilliam note, traumatic memories of the Franco-Prussian War provided numerous opportunities for Third Republic artists to engage in, quote, poignant memorialization of doomed heroism and energetic evocations of desperate combat against ruthless and better armed opponents. Guttuso and Cagli similarly mine notoriously bloody battles of the Risorgimento, but recast those instances as evocative of both international struggles birthing a cohesive sense of national purpose, as well as the cultural particularities of regionalism in its death throes. Despite successfully creating an independent and united Italian kingdom, the Risorgimento ultimately left much of the Italian population, particularly the south and the rural north, alienated from a liberal government forged from the ideals espoused by the Italian urban bourgeoisie and upper classes. These liberal ideals coalesced around a constructed Italianità, built from a shared language as well as cultural history, selectively comprised of outstanding literary, artistic, musical, and political achievements of different regions from ages past. Today, I will explore the selective appropriation of visual and cultural vocabularies pillaged from regional communities in Cagli's Battle of San Martino and Solferino, and Guttuso's Battle of the Ammiraglio Bridge. Their display in Florence, a city that operates as a cultural center rather than a stronghold of regional pride, exposes the problematic nature of interpreting Italianità today. I argue that Cagli and Guttuso, through the creation of these two paintings, mark the death of regionalism rather than the birth of Italy, laying bare the problematic frameworks that underpin the dominant fascist and communist ideologies between the 1930s and 1950s. The Fascist Party celebrated Roman Jewish painter Corrado Cagli for his artistic investigations of the origins of Italian visual culture. A visit to Pompeii sparked Cagli's use of the ancient techniques of encaustic tempera, egg yolk added to beeswax varnish to create durable, vibrant colors, and large-scale wall murals, a format he declared as, quote, needed to convey the power of contemporary painting, unquote. Cagli's art married the fascist desire to promote the supremacy of the modern era with visual recollections of Italy's antique past. The fascist regime applauded Cagli for his love of wall painting, a medium considered essential for educating the masses. Cagli parlayed his popularity with the regime into a steady stream of public art commissions. The Fresco Preparations for War, the artist's 1933 debut at the Milan Triennale, explored the individual and collective sense of historical origins. Despite Cagli's weak connection to his Jewish roots, the regime criticized his fresco. The artist's, quote, deforming technique, unquote, presented Italians as physically and mentally degenerate, proof that Jews intended to undermine the regime in the eyes of the public. The regime thus destroyed many of Cagli's works created between 1927 and 1937. Shaken by this strong reaction and uneasy with the growing anti-Semitism of the regime, Cagli selected a critical battle from the Risorgimento as his subject for the 1936 Milan Triennale, believing it would protect him from official scrutiny. The artist painted the Battle of San Martino and Solferino in the privacy of his studio in Milan, and he painted on a series of hollow panels, which would enable the artist to deinstall, transport, and hide the work quickly should it be slated for destruction. He worked from a single compositional sketch, and he painted the entire work, panel by panel, in only 2 weeks. Cagli only saw the completed painting once he had mounted all of the panels on the wall at the Triennale. The painting fuses 2 historical battles. The 1859 Battle of Solferino, in which the French army bloodily defeated the Austrian army, and the Battle of San Martino, in which the Sardinian Piemontese forces eventually forced the retreat of the Austrian army. The vibrant reds and blues of the Franco-Italian army uniforms fly across the canvas, pushing back and trampling the Austrians in light gray, giving the illusion of overwhelming victory. Small vignettes of victory appear throughout the composition. The Piemontese soldier, which we can see, he's the figure in black right there, he bayonets the downed Austrian. And a Sardinian soldier on horseback wielding a Sardinian war flag in his left hand as he looks to stab a dead Austrian soldier with the Austrian flag in his right. And the shirtless French soldier right here, emerging from beneath a pile of mostly Austrian corpses, surviving to fight again. In the Battle of San Martino and Solferino, we see Cagli's engagement with his illustrious medieval predecessors, namely, the robust black lances recall those utilized so masterfully by Paolo Uccello in the Battle of San Romano to convey depth, and the use of multiple pictorial vignettes create another strong visual link between the 2 paintings. The soldiers fleeing in the background, up the tilted picture plains and stacked country hills, as well as the foreshortened fallen figures in the immediate foreground, cultivate an enhanced sense of visual compression. The uniforms not only visually link the troops with their French counterparts, but they link the disparate Italian troops to each other as well. Indeed, the individual soldiers and horses are difficult to discern. The French soldiers closely resemble the Sardinian troops, and only 2 articulated Piemontese soldiers are present in the composition. Nationalities, time, and space are not only compressed, but are rendered indistinguishable. The subjugation of the regional troops to the darkened foreground metaphorically speaks to the marginalization of regional identities. Even the Sardinian kingdom was comprised of the former individual regions of Sardinia, Piedmont, Savoy, Lombardy, Parma, and Modena, each with their own dialect, customs, and culture. Ernest Renan argues that modern nations are founded upon a will to nationhood rather than natural principles such as a common language or race. This will is contingent upon each citizen actively forgetting or confusing divisive or contentious moments in the past in order to develop a collective historical memory. Cagli actively engages with this principle in the Battle of San Martino and Solferino by marginalizing the traditional Piemontese troops, depicting the birth of modern Italy by actively erasing Piedmont's unique past. Compressing the 2 separate battles into one canvas blurs distinctions between the 2 military engagements in order to amplify both the Franco-Sardinian victory and a sense of a cohesive, nationally sanctioned narrative. Margherita Sarfatti, prominent art critic and Mussolini confidant, applauded the Battle of San Martino and Solferino, quote, for recalling, on one hand, Paolo Uccello for its inspiration and composition, and at the same time, the work evokes the loose, direct, and simple frankness of Sicilian carretti. Mentioning the carretti, traditional brightly painted Sicilian handcarts, introduces a southern and therefore distinctively regional language to the interpretation of Cagli's work. Although Cagli marginalizes the few regional characters, the vibrant colors and simple frankness present in the decoration of carretti signals an understanding of the complexities involved in integrating regional customs and cultures into the new Italian mainstream, despite the fact that the carretto is a southern object rather than Piemontese. Like Cagli, Renato Guttuso initially enjoyed critical acclaim under the fascist regime. Guttuso studied painting at the workshop of Emilio Mordolo, a carretti painter. Only later in Palermo did he study modern technique and composition. Guttuso was in Milan in 1935 to 1936, where he likely saw the Battle of San Martino and Solferino. And in 1937, he settled in Rome, where he became involved with the Roman communist intelligentsia. In the Battle of the Ammiraglio Bridge, Guttuso selected an episode from General Giuseppe Garibaldi's famous Expedition of the Thousand. In May of 1860, Garibaldi and his 1,000 soldiers, or mille, had galvanized local Sicilian peasants to join their cause and take the city of Palermo from the Bourbon government by seizing the Ammiraglio Bridge. This battle represented a critical victory, enabling the mille to lay siege to Palermo once the bridge had fallen and legitimizing the cause of the Garibaldian army. Garibaldi, wielding his sword and Sardinian war flag, anchors the composition and exerts a sense of calm over the chaos and bloodshed enacted by his red shirts on the Bourbon forces. Like Cagli's frenetic scattered pulses of color, Guttuso's brilliant crimson shirts contrast with the blue of the Bourbon army, clearly distinguishing the victors of the battle. Guttuso binds the individual vignettes of fighting with the force of one action, a decisive push left across the bridge. The choice to depict the soldiers of the Battle of the Ammiraglio Bridge on a large scale indicates Guttuso's commitment to the Communist Party's desire to provoke serious contemplation of the failures of the government and the war amongst all strata of society. Guttuso's sense of responsibility stemmed from his participation in the Roman resistance from 1943 to 1945. During the German occupation of Rome in 1943, Guttuso created an image of Garibaldi for the Confederation of Workers broadsheet, Il Lavoro Italiano. The illustration, framed by a headline proclaiming Garibaldi returns or Garibaldi torna, was accompanied by text claiming Garibaldi's spirit as the driving force behind the resistance's defense of popular democracy. By linking the Risorgimento with the resistance, Guttuso and his fellow communists appropriated the myth of Garibaldi, stripping the storied military commander of his ties to fascist imagery. Furthermore, Garibaldi fought in the Battle of Solferino as a young soldier. Like the resistance working to expel the Germans from Rome, Garibaldi fought to expel foreign troops from his homeland. Like Cagli, Guttuso collapses time and space in the Battle of the Ammiraglio Bridge. This painting depicts not just the fight for Palermo, but also the fights for Lombardy and for Rome. The Garibaldian red shirts acquire a double meaning in the context of 20th century communists. And additionally, Guttuso included a portrait of his grandfather, Ciro, who fought with Garibaldi during the Risorgimento, alongside portraits of his wartime communist associates, such as Elio Vittorini and Luigi Longo. He also included two self-portraits: the Sicilian volunteer soldier spread across the overturned fruit cart, and the bloody Garibaldian soldier lying nearby, which we can see here and here. The downed soldier is splayed in a pose mimicking that of the Sicilian volunteer, a coronet lying uselessly by his right hand, which recalls the instrument Guttuso played as a member of the National Fascist Youth Band in Sicily. Guttuso, the youthful fascist, is dead, his peaceful Sicilian childhood memories stained with blood by complicity in bolstering the regime he would eventually fight. By combining the past and present in one image, Guttuso strips the painting of its specific Sicilian context. The figure of the dead Sicilian soldier deals a further blow to regionalism. His body is flung across his overturned fruit cart, blood trickling across his white shirt. The only native Sicilian in the composition died fighting to defend his home. Guttuso painted the cart in the style of the Sicilian carretto in which he had trained. Here the carretto, usually depicting a scene of the Crusades, is overturned, acknowledging while destroying the medieval past. Finally, the oranges, the symbol of Sicilian agriculture, have spilled to the ground like the blood of the dead soldier. The remains of the Sicilian economy lay wasted next to the remains of the Sicilian man. The death of the lone Sicilian, the overturned carretto, and the spilled oranges all signal Guttuso's destruction of Sicilian regionalism and regionalism in Italy at large. Cagli understood the artist's agency, not just in painting events from the past, but also in tempering the modern audience's relationship to those past occurrences. The artist believed that, quote, recognizing these myths in the heroic and religious sense is of the utmost importance, and he called upon the creators to judge time itself and to celebrate it, unquote. The Battle of San Martino and Solferino tells the stories of both the Italian wars and the Risorgimento, inviting the viewer to consider the costs incurred by the Italian people through the ages as they fought for their independence and the meaning of those sacrifices today. Whereas Cagli was preoccupied with the distinctions between past, present, and future, Guttuso characterized memory as, quote, an instrument of recognition of our present. He believed in the materiality of memory, unquote, and felt that, quote, historical painting is essentially contemporary, unquote. In the Battle of the Ammiraglio Bridge, Guttuso paints his beliefs in the faces of Garibaldi, his grandfather, his friends, and himself. Ultimately, neither artist subscribed to a singular, official reading, encouraging multiple perspectives. Yet today, both paintings are inscribed within a nationalist narrative, evident in their placement in the Uffizi. Cagli and Guttuso's paintings are displayed facing each other in order to embody the legacy of the Risorgimento, which, according to Antonio Natali, quote, consists of the aspiration to a common ethos, a harmony and cohesion that, in times of dissonant geographic fracture, should be engraved in fire in the souls and memory of all, unquote. Natali's text, therefore, sanitizes the complexities of regional identity present in the paintings, opting instead to adhere to a generic reading of the works as triumphant examples of Italy's past. The selective display of the paintings ensures that the officially sanctioned patriotic reading of the paintings dominates their interpretation, leaving little access for alternative perspectives. These works, located in the less compromised city of Florence and far from the historically limited communities of Rome, Sicily, and the rural north, are denuded of their potential to be read as revolutionary calls to arms. Their selective display in the San Pierscaraggio building heightens the connection between the iconographies employed by Cagli and Guttuso with those of ancient and early modern sources exhibited in the Uffizi's collection nearby. These paintings, therefore, are historicized, stripped of their nuanced modernity and placed in the exact trajectory so prized by the fascists and the communists, from antiquity through the Renaissance and Risorgimento to the present. Cagli and Guttuso, two artists whose responses to war and fascism and regional pride reflect the collective uncertainty surrounding the legacy of the Risorgimento and Italy's past in forging a new national identity. The two artists created these paintings at critical junctures in the reception and interpretation of the Risorgimento and its aftermath. The selective display of the Battle of San Martino and Solferino and the Battle of the Ammiraglio Bridge draws attention not to the formation of Italian national identity, but rather to a loss of the regional idiosyncrasies, cultures, and classes that fed into the dynamic history of the Italian peninsula and the difficulties the country continues to face in interpreting and experiencing Italianità. Thank you.